Welcome to the Human Rights Cafe. My name is Jacob Sule. When people's rights are tampered with or denied, it means that my rights and yours are being undermined. Hence, we must educate people about their rights. The Human Rights Cafe is a collaborative virtual conversation of a Read to Live initiative to equip new generation of leaders to know, promote, and protect citizens' rights and dignity of all persons. The conversation seeks to promote human rights, justice, peace, and strong institutions as provided for by the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Our goal is to build a nation where peace and justice shall reign and respect for citizens' rights. If you'd like to know more about the Human Rights Cafe, please join our conversation on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter via @HRightsCafe. Once again, Jacob Sule. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Human Rights Cafe conversation, streaming live from Washington, D.C. My name is Jacob Sule. It is a great pleasure to welcome you all to the chat today. Today, two guests are on the show who will share their thoughts about the state of human rights in Myanmar during the military coup. To viewers watching on various platforms, thank you so much for joining us today. Please feel free to send in your questions and comments. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel at Human Rights Cafe. And please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and every other social media platform. Joining me today on the show today is Alex. Alex, thank you and welcome to the conversation.
Thank you so much, Jacob. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for giving us a platform.
Thank you. I also have someone else joining me today from Washington, D.C. Thiti. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Jacob and everyone. We are very excited to share about Myanmar revolution process, which are developing lately. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Alex, let me quickly go to talk briefly about Alex's background. Alex is a Fulbright scholar to the Georgetown Law School and attended courses at the American University Washington College of Law to complete the certificate in international studies. He is a corporate lawyer by profession and has been actively involved in human rights and justice accountability projects against the military junta since the coup on the 1st of February 2021. Particularly, Alex has been assisting the Ministry of Justice of the National Unity Government of Myanmar in establishing courts around the liberated areas of Myanmar and bringing the military junta into international courts. Alex is currently based in Washington, D.C. and preparing to sit for the New York Bar exams in July. Thank you for coming on the chat this afternoon.
Thank you, Jacob.
Fifi is also a Lincoln scholar currently studying for LLM in international criminal law at the American University Washington College of Law. She started a legal career in 2018 in the legal aid field and has been practicing as a legal lawyer at the International Legal Foundation in Myanmar, where she provides legal aid services for criminally accused vulnerable people in Rohingya cases, drug cases, and political cases. With her LLM studies in WCL, she has focused on international legal accountability for human rights violations and war crimes, especially in Myanmar. Fighting for justice and the rule of law in every day is a challenging but meaningful job for Thiti. As a young female attorney who has been practically involved in improving Myanmar's criminal justice, she is motivated to learn more about criminal justice and reforms in international law. Welcome again, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
So let's get quickly into the conversation, and I will ask Titi, you have lived in Myanmar for quite a couple of time and also as a legal practitioner. Can you briefly tell our viewers the background and the context of the Myanmar politics that you think we should know before discussing this topic today?
Yes, sure, Jacob. Yes, so the Myanmar background history is really related to what's really happening currently. So yeah, let's go back to like 1990s and like see what's happened in Myanmar. So before we start, in 1885, Myanmar was colonized by the British, and again in 90 again after like in 1940s, it is occupied by Japan again in World War II era, and then 1948 it became independent. So since after the independence, Myanmar is like operating as a democratic nation, but unfortunately in 1962, the military, the medal we call in Burmese, so the military took over in a coup, and so it is nationalized as a socialist country, and in 1962. So the country became poorer and poorer as the military like took over all the business corporation as state-owned operations. So in 1988, the civilian many thousands of people start to protest against the military, but because of the military violent crackdowns, those protests um, were has to step back, and with bloody deaths and a lot like bloody deaths. So yeah, and so in 1990, the military kind of made an election, but they refused to give power to the winning political parties, and yeah, so that's what's happened until 1990s, and again in 2010, we had the first constitution, which is also drafted by the military, and in 2021, 20, 2010, election is held by the military, and it was like not pure democracy that transition that we had, but at least we had like democratic transition, and yeah. So, but the military is still in the Myanmar politic, and they are playing the a big role in the yeah, in the Myanmar politic, and yeah, in 2020, 2015, we have election election took place, and National League for Democracy (NLD), Aung San Suu Kyi party, they won the election, and we had uh, first ever civilian government for the first time in the history. But yeah, in 2020 election, the last election we had, uh, we the NLD, Aung San Suu Kyi party, won again, but the military is um, threatening the country to make a coup, and in 2021 they did make the coup and took over the country again. So yeah, it is like it is a lot of history. I know a lot of years, but the thing is that Myanmar is been up and down with its democracy fight, and you know the military coup has been happening, and what happened now is the repeat of the history. What I'm trying to say is that, yeah.
Thank you so much, Titi, for providing that background. Alex, let me pass it to you. You've been a lawyer for quite a couple of time. You've worked in Myanmar. You're working in trying to ensure justice and accountability. For the purpose of those who don't have a very good understanding of what is happening in Myanmar, what kind of power does the military under, which is a current constitution in Myanmar, what kind of power do you think the military has in Myanmar currently?
So yeah, very happy to answer to that. So just like as an introductory, the 2008 Constitution that the military drafted and that we had has now already been abolished by the National Unity Government, because we cannot continue to operate or like run the country with the military controlled constitution anymore. So currently we're in the process of drafting the federal democratic charter and the federal constitution with all the ethnic revolutionary coalition involved as well. But that's the current status right now. But in the past, how the military controlled over the entire country is through the 2008 constitution. It's basically inside the constitution itself, provisions of the constitution provides the military a lot of power. Normally, and in a lot of states, we would have three branches of the government: legislature, executive, and judiciary. But in Myanmar's constitution, there is a significant role, which is without any much check and balance, for the military inside the constitution as well. So to give a couple of examples, the first thing would be our legislature is composed of 25% unelected members of the military. So basically, if you want to amend a provision in the Constitution, you have to get over 2/3, or over four. I mean, I'm sorry, over 4/3 of the Constitution, of the Parliament. But what happened is, since they have an unelected 25% standby, there is no way that the Constitution could be amended or revised, even if we want to. So that is one way how the military has been taking control of the country by means of the Constitution itself. And also, in terms of other check and balances, and also, the judiciary is not really a free and fair judiciary as well. A lot of appointees are just proposed and elected by the military, and therefore, we didn't really have a free judiciary system as well. So that is how they have been controlling. And but now I think everything is about to change with the current revolution going.
Wow, thank you so much, Alex and Titi, for providing that background for the purpose of our viewers. Now, this is going to be a very personal question to both of you, and I know you might feel very sad about it. But the question will go to Titi. What were you doing on the day in which the military coup took place on the 1st of February 2021? And what happened on that day? Tell us, what was it like for you living in Myanmar at that time?
Yes. Uh, it brings us to like yeah to that day. Uh, so the thing is that since before the coup happened in on February 1st of 2021, and before that date, like in the late January on 2021, the military has been saying about taking over, doing a coup in a lot of its media channel, and uh, people kind of couldn't believe that that did happen because it is such a stupid decision to do, you know. And on February 1st, I am supposed to have a training to law students about fair trial principles, and yeah, we were very looking forward to that. And at the morning when we wake up, we awake up to that bad news, you know, and the phone lines are not working, the internet is not working, and the TV channels are not working anymore. And yeah, so yeah, it is unbelievable that happened, and it's like sitting in the dark, you know. Yeah. And yeah, so and we also heard rumors like and rumors like our presidents are being arrested and detained, but we couldn't know any exact knew about what actually happened, because we are being shut down, you know, without internet and phone lines. So yeah, that's actually happened on that day. And then after that day, like in 2nd February and third, people start to protest in the middle of the road. And yeah, thousands of people like are filled over the road. And yeah, that's how we start protesting. How about Alice?
I'm so sorry for bringing back the good memories. Yes, Alex, yes, how do you feel that day?
So, for me, I was already in the U.S. When the coup happened. I was already starting my LLM at Georgetown here in D.C. Um, Funnily, I was actually on a trip to Philadelphia back then. I was having a good time. It was one of the first snows of the year in Philadelphia as well. So I was, coming from a tropical country, you don't really get to see snow that much. So I was actually enjoying the snow. I was having a good time with my friend back in Philly. And around like 5 p.m., 5:30, we heard the news saying that, oh, the military staged a coup in Myanmar. So I was trying to call my parents. I was trying to call my friends back home, but it was not going through. The social media is not really working. I keep, sitting at the corner trying to call my parents, trying to call my friends, but nothing is going through. And also the newsfeed on Facebook, I just kept scrolling, but nothing new is coming out because everything was shut down. So I just felt very angry, and also I felt bad because I was not there in person when that was happening, and it was just a lot of emotions, a very overwhelming emotions, I would say. I was literally just like crying for the entire night, and the continuing 2 3 days as well. It was tough. Like I was not able to even like get out of the room. I was just trying to catch up with my family as much as I can. Yeah, it was very overwhelming, I would say. Yeah.
Mm.
Wow, that's really honestly at this point I really don't know what I can say going forward. But let me get back to you, Titi. Following your thoughts on what happened when the coup happened, how do you think people responded, and how particularly the military, how did they respond to the coup in February 2021?
Yes. The thing is that on the first day, as I'm in Yangon, which is like capital city of Myanmar, and with the most population of Myanmar. On the first day, like people are quite like quiet because we are like we don't know any information about what's happening in next streets, right? So uh but on 2nd February, people start to gather in main road and like start to protest, and we I can see like crowds of people like going like on the highway, not highway, on the main road in the middle of Yangon, you know. And so more and more people start to protest. And our parents, they are very concerned about that, those protests that were leading by youth, because they already seen what the military could do to those youth back in 8080. So in 8080, 1988, when the like protests are happening, the military just shot people on the road, and you know, and lied to the media, lied in their own state-owned media about those deaths. So the parents are concerned that many of the youths are like going out and protesting against the military coup, but you know, you will see like you will see like thousands of people on road, and we are protesting. And then the military is like, at first the military are like the military, the police also are like standing and guarding the uh, buildings, and like let us protest in peacefully. But after like in late February, they start to use violence way to crack down those like to the protester groups, and they start using guns and bullets, real guns, and shoot in the head of people, and try to make people scared, you know. And there were a lot of deaths happen in the late February, by the late February. And but the protest groups are still on the road, like as much as they can, you know, to their intention is to get media attention of the international community, and to like to uh, let other people know that we are in same fight, you know. So yeah. And so the military were using a lot of like violence crackdowns, and later they illegally arrest people, like thousands of people are arrested on road, and uh, being in jail without any fair trials. And then people became defensive in their protest, you know. They bring big metal plate to cover themselves. and and then later in March 2021, uh, those youths start to join the ethnic um, resistant groups, armed groups, which are armed groups located in rural area of Myanmar. You know, and youths start to decide to fight back the military in armed way. You know, so what I'm trying to say is how the peaceful protesters like change their mind to start an armed revolution. You know, so that is started as a defense, as and then became an armed revolution. Yeah. Um, Alice, do you want to add some more?
Yeah, I think it's what you have mentioned is already sufficient. I would say we started off as a self defense. I mean, we're still still doing self-defense as a whole. How are you going to protect yourself if your life has been threatened, and um, if the entire your life and your liberty has been threatened? How are you going to defend yourself without any weapons, right? I think he got lacked.
Yeah. And to add here, so the when I talk about people defending against the military, people think that like what's the police are doing, but in Myanmar, police are totally under control of the military, and also in Myanmar, it is generally illegal to have a gun, so people are very defenseless, and they they do they do not have any weapons to even to defend themselves. So yeah, just the general background.
Wow.
Well,
Thank you so much, Titi, for that. I had a little bit with my internet connection. Let me turn back to Alex. I understand you were in the US as at when the coup happened, but tell me, what are the CRP and NUG? What are they doing, and how is the interim government? What does the structure looks like in Myanmar for those who don't have a background of what is happening currently in Myanmar?
Of course. So what happened is when the coup first took place, what the military did is they actually arrested and detained all the members of the parliament. February 1st is supposed to be the first session of the parliament, the new parliament after the election, right? So it was supposed to be the first session of the parliament, but what happened is the military detained a lot of members of the parliament, but the parliamentarians, elected by the people of Myanmar, thought that even though we're not in the parliamentary building, we should be able to host the first session of the parliament by ourselves because we are basically together in this compound that the military detained us. So they came up with this idea of forming, like officially calling for the first session of the parliament so that the legislative branch was already, there. So that's how the committee representing Bidang Zulito, meaning the committee representing the parliamentarians, were established. And shortly afterwards, with the members of those, they were able to get out of the military detainment, and they actually had to like move to different places and resume their legislative function as an opposition, I would say. So that's how CRPH was born or like established. And shortly after, the National Unity Government, which is the legitimate government of Myanmar right now, was formed with the members of the CRPH as well as in consultation with all the other stakeholders involved as well. And we have cabinet members within the National Unity Government at the moment. So the structure is like we are currently operating as a legitimate government right now. And a lot of people, even a lot of news media try to, cover our story as, oh, National Unity Government (NUG) is the exile government or like the opposition government. But in fact, like under international law, to be able to determine what is exile and what is a legitimate government is through the effective control doctrine, as you might be aware of. So under the effective control doctrine, you have to be able to have control over the territories of Myanmar, as well as you have to, the population inside those territories will have to obey the laws and regulations promulgated by such government, And also the third point would be, they would already have established administrative systems and judiciary systems inside those territories that they have control over. And the last and final thing would be they have to be abide by the international laws. So that's the four prongs of the effective control doctrine. And the National Unity Government actually fits into all the four criterias that I just mentioned, because just very recently the military junta themselves actually announced that they do not have control in the rural areas of Myanmar anymore, which is actually composed of over 50% of the population or the territories inside Myanmar. So even themselves have admitted that they do not have effective control anymore. So the NUG, alongside with the ethnic revolutionary organizations, have the effective control over the territories. And also, the National Unity Government has already been establishing administrative systems. We have been establishing court systems inside the liberated areas as well. So we have pretty much managed to establish courts in 30 different townships in Sagaing and Midway State, which is in the middle part of Myanmar. So that also shows that we're not just taking control over the territories. We have already established, the administrative systems and judiciary systems inside those territories as well. So that also paves a way of having an effective control over the country as well. So, and also, we have a legislative branch working for us. We have something called NUCC, which is basically composed of other pro-democracy movement actors, including the ethnic revolutionary forces as well, which is in the process of drafting this federal charter, the federal constitution. So we already, we have a constitutional background, we have a legislative background, we have an executive functioning, we're already establishing judiciary. So and also, the last thing I would say is the physical presence. All the acting president of the National Unity Government, alongside with the major cabinet members, are actually still inside the country, fighting the military from inside the country. We're not an exile government. We're not operating out of somewhere else. A lot of our cabinet members are still inside the country, fighting the military as of now. So that's how the National Unity Government is being structured.
Wow, that's a lot of information. So let me stay with you, Alex. I know the US is a big supporter against um, the US has very much interest in defending the rights of citizens, whatever part of the country or the world in which you are. Do you by chance know what the US government is currently doing or has done in order to protect and promote the rights of citizens in Myanmar due to the ongoing military junta?
Sure. So the U.S. and members of the EU and some other countries like Australia, Canada, they have been they have been supportive to a certain extent. I would not say sufficient support. We would definitely need more support from the international community. But since the coup happened, they have been condemning the military coup. They've been condemning the military for staging the coup, as well as we have a current very recent legislature passed for Myanmar. So we actually, when the coup happened, we actually started off advocating for this particular bill called the Burma Act, which actually includes a lot of monetary support that actually goes into Myanmar for humanitarian assistance, or basically pro democracy movements as well. But that never really passed. It passed the House, but it never passed the Senate in the U.S. Congress. So what happened is one of the congressmen actually tried to attach the majority of the portions of the Burma Act into a NDAA, which we called, which is the National Defense Authorization Act, which is more of an appropriation act, law in the U.S. That has to be passed every year, every fiscal year, I would say. So the big portions of the Burma Act was attached to the national NDAA, and it was just recently passed in the Congress. So we're very thankful for the support in terms of having a legislature supporting Myanmar or the pro democracy movements, because inside the legislation itself, there are explicit language that contains National Unity Government, CRPH, NUCC, ethnic revolutionary organizations, etc., etc. So that really helps us a lot to in terms of appropriating the funds that would directly go into the National Unity Government or the pro democracy coalition, I would say. But also at the same time, they've been implementing a lot of sanctions. But just very recently, a very disturbing news that came up, which says something like they have already sanctioned this major entity of the military, who has been actually doing a lot of fundings, or it's one of the revenue streams of the military itself to purchase weapons and guns to kill our people. and the U.S. government actually sanctioned them a while ago. But they actually gave them an exemption when a Japanese project wants to provide some sort of like fundings to that organization. So it's there are a lot of like gray areas still, even though the US has been supporting or like implementing sanctions, there are also a lot of loopholes, and we are planning to address those loopholes and making sure that no revenue streams actually go into the military right now.
Right. Thank you so much, Alex, for that profound thoughts. Let me push back to Titi. Titi, you have an expansive background in legal aid. And my question will be, do you think, or what are the current international justice mechanism in place in Myanmar to actually address the violations of human rights by the military? Do we have anything of such? If we do, tell us about it.
Yes. Thank you, Jacob, for the question. Regarding the international justice uh, mechanisms, uh, so we are a member of like prevention of genocide and related conventions. So ICJ's hearing uh, the case brought by Gambia against Myanmar regarding the Rohingya human rights violation happened in Myanmar back in 2017. So that case is still going on, but it is about Rohingya human rights violations by the military. And so regarding ICC, because Myanmar is not party to the Rome Statute, which established the ICC, so the court doesn't have jurisdiction over crimes committed solely within Myanmar's territory unless authorized by the Security Council, which is unlikely. So, so that, but NUG government, Ministry of Human Rights, they try to bring a case to ICC about human rights violation and mass atrocity committed by the military after the during the coup period. So we are hopefully about that case to be heard in ICC, and we also have another other cases which are mainly based on the issues of Rohingya crisis happen, and so yeah. But the thing is, so that is the international justice mechanisms, and also in the regional area, we have like ASEAN, Association of Southeast Asian Country, but ASEAN has been um, trying hard to settle out Myanmar's human rights violation cases, but unfortunately, we do not have like human rights tribunals uh, being established in Southeast Asian region. So we are very hopeful for that and uh, that to happen in the future. Yeah. So yeah, that's the thing about like taking action of human rights violation in Myanmar. And yeah,
Thank
so
you very much, Titi. From our viewers, I have a question for Alex from Ademola Taiwo. The question says, Alex has been able to tell us about the international law and how the effective control doctrine is applied. However, he's asking, what is the position of the international humanitarian law in regulating what is ongoing in Myanmar? Yes, Alex?
So I would probably defer that to Titi because she studies international humanitarian law as well. But to give my 2 cents on that, I think it would relate with the ongoing who are the stake actors and who are not the stake actors. Those are the questions that is being discussed amongst legal scholars at the moment. So there's a lot of discussions and debates about whether the national unity government should be considered as the state actor
mm,
or not. Or, I mean, I've basically just laid out earlier that the effective control doctrines would apply, and that NUG should actually be considered as a state actor. But as of now, I think a lot of people are still considering the military as more of a state actor and the revolutionary forces as a non-state actor. So maybe Didi would like to fill in a bit more.
Right, thank you. Titi, before you fill up on that, there is also a second question. Probably you can take both together. Titi, Ademola is asking, what is the impact of international? Sorry, what is the impact of human rights related NGOs and activism bodies in Myanmar? So can you just take both together because of our time?
Yes. To answer the first question, Alice answered perfectly. I want to explain the parties of the conflict happening. So we have like the military and also the ethnic resistant groups which are being in Myanmar since after the independence. They are resistant against the military since after the independence. And we also have public defense forces, which are newly formed after the coup. So, so the military is being regarded as a state actor, and the other two are being regarded as non-state actor by the international communities. And so that is the battle there that we are trying to say that the military doesn't have the support of people, Myanmar people. And again, the international humanitarian law is binding to all of those three parties, and yeah, so that's that I want to add to Ella's answer. For the second question, after the coup, uh, I'm so before and after the coup, I was working for an INGO as a legal aid lawyer, and for us, it is really impacting because we have to like close down our website for a while till you know, and we have phone applications where we are educating people about their legal rights. So we di- we have to uh, you know cut connection or like make ourselves anonymous on those reports and on those works that we are doing. And for even for the lawyers, they are like they have to be very careful with going public about their works they've been doing. And many INGOs and NGOs who are actively working their work for human rights, they have to flee to neighbor country, like ideally Thailand, uh, because it is very risky to be in Myanmar at that time, because the military has been arresting everyone, and everyone's security is not guaranteed. So yeah, that could impact a lot, even on the INGOs and even the ambassadors. Some of the ambassadors they also leave Myanmar right after the coup.
Thank you so much, Titi, for that. I have a last question from Pietro Severo to any of you. Say, what do you think are the interests of countries not openly siding with the NUG and maybe even supporting the military junta? Any of you, very quickly in 30 seconds.
That's a very good question. Thank you so much, Pietro, for that as well. I think it's the reality of the world these days. If the world could, if stakeholders could probably just um, think of it as injustice to one country is basically an injustice to everywhere. And once that is being violated, it could be a domino effect. Basically, the threat of democracy and the threat of justice could apply to basically everywhere if you actually let the dictators, the authoritarians, them continue to thrive in the world. But the world is not as simple as that, I guess. So there are a lot of economic interests. There are a lot of other related interests that other countries have, like which has been long ongoing with Myanmar. I would say, or with the military as well. So I think that's why they are reluctant. I don't think anybody wants to continue to see the military in action, but also at the same time, I think it's taking them a while, and that's why it's not really their fault as well. That is why the National Unity Government and all the revolutionary coalition groups will have to try harder to convince them that this is not okay. This if we are in power, or if we manage to take back our own country from the military, we
Thank
would
you
be
so
able
much,
to do
Alex.
more.
Thank you so much, Alex. I know you can
Of
go on and on and on to share your thoughts. Yes, Titi, in 2 seconds, what are your final thoughts? What is your final remarks for the government of Myanmar and for every human rights lawyer or activist out there watching this conversation? In 2 seconds.
Pardon me, your question again?
What are your final thoughts for the government on Myanmar as regards respecting the rights of citizens currently living in Myanmar?
Oh, so that the fight is still going on, and there's a lot of people illegally detained in prison. And Myanmar people right now are illegally detained in the country. Everyone is in prison now in Myanmar, and their life is being threatened. So, yeah, the fight is still going on, and the fight is going to a positive outcomes. I believe.
Right. Thank you. Yes, Alex, your final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we are working day and night. We're working very hard for this revolution to, succeed, so that we can go back home. I want to go back home. So yeah, we're trying day and night. We're trying hard. We believe in our cause.
Right. Thank you so much, Alex and Titi. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the end of the conversation. Alex and Titi have been discussing the state of human rights in Myanmar during the military coup. Alex is a Fulbright scholar to Georgetown Law, and Titi is also a Lincoln scholar to the American University, Washington College of Law. Ladies and gentlemen, viewers who have joined this conversation, for those who have sent in their comments and questions, I apologize. I am unable to take on most questions because of our time. Thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to having you all next week for another episode of this conversation. Thank you and have a happy weekend.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Human Rights Cafe. My name is Jacob Sule. When people's rights are tampered with or denied, it means that my rights and yours are being undermined. Hence, we must educate people about their rights. The Human Rights Cafe is a collaborative virtual conversation of a Right to Live initiative to equip new generation of leaders to know, promote, and protect citizens' rights and dignity of all persons. The conversation seeks to promote human rights, justice, peace, and strong institutions as provided for by the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Our goal is to build a nation where peace and justice shall reign and respect for citizens' rights. If you'd like to know more about the Human Rights Cafe, please join our conversation on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter via @HRightsCafe. Once again, Jacob Sule. Thank you.